Next up, we have members of the Sacramento chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America Healthcare Committee, and they will be talking about universal healthcare and the Green New Deal. We have Maddie Mabry, Phil Kim, Jennifer Muir, and John Fair. Hope I got everyone's names right. So great. So
you did. Thank you.
Awesome.
Greetings, Earthlings. We are here today, as many of you know, to celebrate and champion for this beautiful planet that supports us and sustains us. As proponents of healthcare, more specifically Medicare for All, the DSA Healthcare Committee wants to emphasize that we take a considerate look at the connectedness of our planet's health and our personal health. When we step back and recognize that every action does truly create a reaction, we can re-navigate and steer ourselves into a position where we are taking care of our planet and people at the same time. Good, thoughtful actions tend to encourage good reactions. Our committee has a strong vision for a future that absolves racial, financial, and environmental disparities in the community and makes progressive decisions that have lasting impacts for us all. We are excited to be here this evening and share a few goals and accomplishments we have made in the past few years. We hope you find value in our message and are ready and willing to join us on our mission to guarantee quality and free healthcare through Medicare for All. Let us remember and honor the fact that we are only as strong and successful as the person next to us. We are all in this together, which, as demonstrated by this pandemic, is not a cliche. I'd like to begin with a poem that I worked on just to share with you guys to encapsulate what we are going through right now and how we might be able to move forward. It's Only the Flu by Madeline Mabry. Not here, not us, that cannot be. We're America, home of the brave, land of the free. Not here, not us, we're too debonair. COVID doesn't care. Silent, sneaky, shape-shifting, severe. COVID is here. Bravado, ego, deflection, lies. We failed to plan. We haven't enough supplies. Toilet paper, bottled water, Purell, sell your stock. But wait, is there something we forgot? Nurses, doctors, the grocer, mail carrier, dangerously exposed without proper barrier. Downplayed by Donald, secrecy breeding. Mainstream media remains oh so misleading. Close the schools, if you care. Shops, restaurants, bars, if you dare. No repercussions for malfeasance when you turn a blind eye. Market crashes, now it matters. Cover corporate assets. Bail out big business. Toss the people a bone. Surely, 1,200 is enough to stop their moans. Confusion, fear. Stand 6 feet away. Please don't come near. Shelter in place. Wash your hands. Medicare for all? They ignore the demands. Too bad if you're poor. Join the brigade of non-white skin. It's class warfare now. Us plebes are all kin. Humility and unity. This is how we will win. Cracks in the system, oh, how they show. The best of us knew. America's fragility is revealed. It's only the flu.
Thank you, Maddie. And on that note, my name is Phil, by the way. I'm one of the co-chairs of the SAC DSA Healthcare Committee, along with John and Jen, who will speak after me. I'm going to talk a little bit about Medicare for All and the Green New Deal. Jen's going to talk about our organizing work locally that we've been doing for Medicare for All to try to get Representative Matsui on board. She is not currently a co-sponsor. And John is going to finish it up with a call to action. We need help from everybody to win this. So we are currently facing an unprecedented healthcare and economic crisis on top of the climate crisis. And this is being caused by the relentless pursuit of profit in our heartless capitalist system, our dependency on fossil fuels, racism and scapegoating that allows fascists to gain power, all in the middle of this worldwide COVID-19 pandemic. And even before the pandemic, we were facing a major healthcare crisis. We had 87 million Americans uninsured or underinsured, a profit-driven patchwork where far too many people can't get or avoid the healthcare that they need to live healthy, productive lives. And now, with this economic crisis, in the span of just days and weeks, at least 26.5 million workers have lost their jobs. It's probably higher than that. And it's estimated that up to 35 million people could lose their employer-sponsored health insurance. And then especially young people and people who work in customer service jobs are affected. One poll found that 52% of Americans under the age of 45 have either lost their job, been put on leave, or had their hours dramatically cut as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. That's a majority of people under 45 whose pay has disappeared or been significantly reduced. And the 3.5 COVID packages passed by Congress have been totally inadequate. People need relief now, and later we'll have a call to action that John will go over, but I just want to take the time to go over a poem from 100 years ago that I think is very relevant as Congress refuses to bail out the people. This is called "We Have Fed You All for 1,000 Years." It's by an unknown worker from the Industrial Workers of the World Little Red Songbook. I'll just read the first verse since we're running short on time. "We have fed you all for 1,000 years, and you hail us still unfed, though there's never a dollar of all your wealth but marks the workers dead. We have yielded our best to give you rest, and you lie on crimson wool. Then if blood be the price of all your wealth, good God, we have paid it in full." So that is "We Have Fed You All for 1,000 Years" in the IWW Little Red Songbook. So let me show a slide here, and we're going to jump into a little presentation. Whoops. Present. Okay. Well, I'll leave that up there, and let me just jump back to where I was. So as far as the climate crisis, as you all know, we are in a really important and pivotal moment for climate justice. And by pivotal, I mean it could pivot either way. If we don't act fast enough, we run the risk of activating uncontrollable climate feedback loops. And I'm sorry, are you guys seeing the slideshow still? Just wanted to check on that. You are, okay, great. You know this all: mass migration, rising sea levels, continued mass inequality, continued scapegoating. But if we organize like our lives depend on it and seize the short moment that we have, we can build a mass movement for social, economic, racial, healthcare, and climate justice. And the Green New Deal and Medicare for All could be central pieces of our plan for a just and peaceful society. And we see firsthand how the climate crisis causes devastation for working class people, both in the United States and abroad, and disproportionately for people of color. This includes higher rates of asthma, cancer, other health problems near fossil fuel infrastructure, oil and gas wells, refineries, coal plants, smoke from the wildfires in California, displacement from flooding. But we have another option here. And let me go to the next slide. The direction that we go from here really depends on all of us and the organizations we're part of and what we're willing to do about it. In place of fossil fuels, we could have a just transition to low carbon jobs. And this is when it's safe for people to go back to work and with adequate personal protective equipment, which right now people don't have. But we can, with our government, directly create good union low carbon jobs in clean energy, in teaching, in all sorts of jobs, and even in making art. In the original New Deal, the Works Progress Administration employed millions of actors, musicians, writers, artists, photographers, and dancers. And in 1938, more than 3.3 million Americans worked for the Works Progress Administration. And the population was about 40% of what it is today. So that'd be over 7 million people in today's terms, directly employed by the government doing good work. Let me go to the next slide. So this is AOC's Green New Deal resolution. And with regard to healthcare, you can see that Medicare for all and healthcare for all is a necessary and really important part of any Green New Deal plan. You can see it underlined in red that healthcare is part of any sort of robust Green New Deal plan. And let me just go to the next slide. If any of you have seen the amazing Green New Deal video narrated by AOC and produced by Naomi Klein, you might remember that they talk about the intersections of climate and healthcare. Medicare for All will guarantee high quality healthcare for all and make sure that we have the funding to hire millions more workers in healthcare and home care. And it's very necessary low carbon work that our society greatly needs. And it's so important that we push our elected officials to offer real solutions like the Green New Deal and Medicare for All. Otherwise, we allow people to fall for fascism and racism. So locally, we need to do all we can to keep the pressure on our representatives. Jen's going to talk about what we've done locally with Doris Matsui, and John's going to talk about how you can help us win this. Jen, I think you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Jen.
Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to do was get a lot of information about Medicare for All out to the public, and hopefully inform them enough that they would call our local representatives, their local representatives, in particular Doris Matsui. That all started for me in 2018 when Phil asked me to come and canvass door to door. Next thing I knew, we were hosting a barnstorm. That happened in February of 2019. We had about 150 attendees. And at the end of that, we asked those attendees to host their own canvasses and call Doris Matsui or their local representative. Next, in April, we had a community event called Disparities in Healthcare, How Race and Income Impact the Care You Get or Don't Get. We had a panel of students from Sac State, and we, at the end, again, we asked people to call their representative, and especially Doris Matsui. In June of 2019, we took a contingency of 9 community leaders and aspiring politicians up to meet with Doris Matsui, but we only got a meeting with her staff. We pitched our healthcare stories and our case for Medicare for All, and they thanked us very much, and we were on our way. Next thing we knew, on Doris Matsui's website, there was a healthcare page called Healthcare for All, where she was promising that she would work on lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and she wanted to hear from her constituents about their medical issues. Still, she did not support Medicare for All. In July, we had a People's Assembly where nurses and lay people told their stories about how the healthcare system was failing them, and we asked people again to call their representative. In late July, we rallied outside of Doris Matsui's office again, only to be met by security and her staff. I think she heard us, but I'm not sure. In August, there was a bus of nurses and allies that went to San Francisco to have a rally and a die-in in front of Nancy Pelosi's office and try to get her to notice us. And then just before Christmas, we did crowd canvassing outside of DOCA, and we made up some carols about Medicare for All. We ended up in front of Doris Matsui's office one more time to try and carol for her, and we were met by her staff at the door. After that, we had a screening of a movie called The Power to Heal, which was about how Medicare was as we currently know it, intersects with racial justice, and it makes a point that we still have a long way to go in achieving racial justice in medicine due to the unequal access of treatment of people of color in a single-payer system, and how a single-payer system would go a long way towards eliminating those healthcare disparities. We had an extremely good conversation with our panel afterwards, and again, we ask everybody in the audience to please contact their representative and tell them that they support Medicare for All and ask them to get on board. Where do we go next?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm John Fayer. We're already over time, so I'm going to just try and distill down a 30-second explanation of how and why medical and healthcare and environmentalism are inextricably intertwined. So the environment is the single most important driver of our health. Food, water, pollution, all of these are intrinsically shaping our health. In our current system, the trillion-dollar healthcare system is not incentivized to keep people well. They make money from treating illness. In a single-payer system, we would be incentivized to keep people as well as possible, just lowering costs for all of society for people being less sick. Right now, a huge impediment to things like the Green New Deal and environmental reform in general is that this massive sector of the economy, healthcare is something like 18% of the entire GDP. As you can see here, these very, very, very wealthy lobbying groups, they're incentivized not to care or to actively lobby against environmental causes. You being sick is good for the pharmaceutical industry, for the hospital industry. That is a massive impediment for passing environmental legislation, for cleaning up pollution. So what we would encourage you to do is think of these two issues as both being fundamental and intertwined. We encourage you to get involved with your local DSA group who are fighting for universal health care. Polls show that both the Green New Deal and Medicare for All are hugely popular, and they're incredibly related to each other, as Phil was mentioning earlier. So please, if you are passionate about the environment, please get involved in trying to pass a universal health care plan, which is currently proposed in both the House and the Senate that you can see here. Contact your representatives to have them take the patients over profits pledge to get corporate lobbying money out of healthcare. And in general, support the Green New Deal, environmental legislation, and healthcare legislation as two sides of the same coin. Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.